Have you ever caught yourself feeling like life isn't entirely real? Not that you're asleep, but that everything around you doesn't fully belong to you. As if you never chose your environment, the thoughts in your head, or the rules by which the world operates. You wake up, go where you're supposed to, say what's expected, feel what's acceptable, and even your rebellion seems pre-written by someone else's script. The strange paradox is this: the more you try to live like everyone else, the less alive you feel. It's like you're stuck in someone else's simulation, playing a role handed to you without being asked. You're in the matrix, not the one with computers feeding off human bodies, but a subtler one. A matrix of ideas, beliefs, social norms, and unconscious programming. Think about it. You didn't choose the country you were born in. You didn't select the language of your thoughts. You didn't create the moral system, religion, ethics, culture, education, success standards, or happiness templates. All of it was simply downloaded into you, like an operating system, quietly from childhood, often through love. First, your parents taught you what's right, then school told you what matters, and society shaped what you need. And so you grow up surrounded not by choice, but by conditioning. Everything you call yourself is actually compiled code from outside sources. But if all that isn't truly you, then who are you really? And do you even have access to your authentic self? These questions are terrifying, because if you accept them, your entire world begins to crack, and the mind fears chaos above all. Psychologists call this cognitive consistency, the human tendency to keep their internal worldview stable, even if it's false. That's how the system protects itself. But it's also in those cracks that freedom can begin to grow. This isn't just poetic metaphor. It's a real psychological and biological process. Breaking a mental pattern is the first step to awakening. Since childhood, you've been taught that you are a name, a passport, a profession, but you are something greater, much greater. In 1999, Princeton scientists conducted studies on synchronicity, random events, and mass consciousness. They found that collective human attention genuinely affects random number generators. Reality isn't as objective as it seems. Even physicists at the Max Planck Institute say that observers in quantum experiments influence the behavior of particles. Reality responds to observation. What if everything you call life isn't an objective stream of events, but a subjective simulation crafted by your trained mind? And that mind was shaped long before you ever realized what thinking is. You're not looking at reality. You're looking through a filter. Like an old film reel, full of static and distortion. You can't even tell what's film and what's real anymore. And the longer you live in that projection, the harder it is to tell where you end and the world begins. This is the matrix. Not a digital one, but a mental, ideological one. A matrix of meaning. They implant goals, and we chase them. They install fears, and we obey. They craft desires, and we pay. We're divided by age, gender, interests, class. We're trained to compete, not connect. We're told our value lies in what we show, not in who we are. And no, it's not a conspiracy. It's a system, a faceless mechanism. It simply runs. But here's the truth. You're not a machine. You are human, conscious, capable of seeing yourself. In 2003, philosopher Nick Bostrom proposed that we might be living in a computer simulation, not as a fantasy, but as a serious philosophical possibility. Dozens of research groups now explore this. Many agree. Reality may not be what it seems, but whether this is a simulation or not, something more important remains. You exist, and you can either drown in illusions or wake up. The system doesn't want you asking questions. It wants predictable functions: consumer, worker, voter, viewer, user. But you can be more than these roles, not through rebellion, but through awareness. One neuroscientist said, "The brain doesn't let us see reality. It gives us a model optimized for survival. We don't see the world as it is. We see it in ways that help us survive. But survival isn't living. There's a canyon between the two." So how do you escape? The first step is to stop operating on autopilot. Slow down. Ask yourself, are these my thoughts or someone else's? Do I truly want this, or was I taught to want it? Am I alive, or am I being led? That's the breakthrough. Escaping the matrix not through war, but through inner clarity. Not resisting the outside, but waking up on the inside. In real life, that means you stop chasing and start seeing. You let go of roles and simply try to be. Yes, it's painful. Sometimes frightening, but that's the price of truth. Stephen Hassan, a researcher of cognitive traps, talks about informational isolation. When a person is limited in what they can read, hear, or feel, they begin to believe that limitation is reality. That's how any system keeps control. That's how the matrix holds. There's a story of a man who worked for years in a corporate job, earning well, following the plan. Then one day, he realized that none of it reflected who he truly was. He quit. He suffered. But eventually, he found something eternal: the ability to live outside of others' scripts. Every one of us can take that step. You don't have to destroy your life to do it. You only have to start asking, what if? Why do I think this way? Who am I without all of this? The matrix won't collapse overnight, but cracks will appear. And through those cracks, light can shine in. You didn't build this system, but you can step beyond it. Not through destruction, but through awakening. You are not code, not a function, not a statistic. You are a person who can choose. Even if this world is a simulation, it doesn't erase your hunger, your longing for warmth, the comfort of a familiar voice, or the quiet joy of watching something beautiful. The choice is always ours. And if you're hearing this, it means you're already beginning to wake up. Now I'll leave you, dear viewer, to sit with yourself. May this moment be your turning point.